I mean, like from episode 1.
Yeah.
From episode 1, her age was being harped on.
Yes.
And the fact that she was single and 37.
Yes. Like we were in the unsea. We were off the map, past There Be Dragons, and she was floating alone in a little canoe in the unsea of undesirability. Really.
With her vagina full of cobwebs.
Just like giant spiders.
Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists, and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, Amy.
I was all prepared like you were going to say, hey, everybody, and I was going to just pause. Hi, Leah.
So Megan, I mean, for those who listen to the pod, you've noticed that, our little friend hasn't been feeling great lately.
She said specifically to blame tonight on COVID, but I told her that she would have dropped the drama even without COVID.
It's true. So she wasn't loving the drama that we're watching, but also she has been dealing with COVID and just kind of like, really, it's just been like kicking her ass. And
for 2 weeks, yeah.
For 2 weeks, she just hasn't been feeling great. So she's not in like any danger at the moment. So I don't think folks need to get worried about that. But it's just like she feels like crap. And, our thoughts are with our little friend in Pennsylvania.
Yes. And the only thing that's soothing her is watching Bad and Crazy. So just so you all know, she does have a K-drama salve and she's doing okay.
Yeah. She's like slacking us and talking about Wook all the time. So, she's not at death's door.
No, she's doing her part and still supporting the K-drama universe. She's just not here tonight, and that's okay. We miss her, but we'll be back together next week.
So this has been like energetically a weird week. For me, my work is kind of slowing down quite a lot. I think a lot of people this time of year, that's kind of what happens. And so I work in an educational institution. So, finals have happened. Most students have gone home. Things are a bit quieter. It's getting dark earlier. And then look,
just
enlistment has happened for BTS. And so it just feels like, okay, so Kim Seok-jin, or Jin, the oldest member of BTS, December 13th, he officially enlisted in the army. And look, we need to just talk about it for a bit.
We do. We need to unpack a little bit. And that's okay, I think. And I'll say this, I don't think that I can wear the full army badge yet, as far as my fandom for BTS, but I do love them. They're the one.
You can. You're allowed to. You can do whatever you want.
I know, but I feel like there's different levels, and I haven't seen them live yet. I don't know the full experience, but I will say this: Jin is my bias, and this has been looming. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what? Everybody has to do it. It's not a big deal. I don't freak out when, Kang Tae-oh goes. I'm sad that I won't see him for a couple of years, but he's going to have a military glow up and he's going to be gorgeous and, stronger for it and, all that fun stuff. But there's just a certain preciousness to BTS as far as we just want to protect them from everything.
Correct.
And I don't know. I thought it was kind of in the back of my mind. And then I messaged Leah on Monday morning. So for us, Monday morning was really already the 13th, right? In South Korea. So it was already happening. And so I really thought this was in the back of my mind. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I just dreamt the whole night about spending Jin's last day with him.
Which is amazing. I am proud of you.
I was embarrassed to tell you about it because this dream felt so real. I woke up and I was like, did I just get back from Seoul? I was I don't know where I am. I was very disoriented. I don't remember it in detail, but I do know that somehow I found myself in South Korea and I found myself crossing paths with Kim Seok-jin, and for one reason or another, we found each other to be soulmates, and we spent his last day and whatever, together. In this dream, I did not speak Korean. He did not speak English, and it still worked. And it was a beautiful dream. And I don't really know everything that happened, but it felt very, very real. And I woke up like kind of a little bit despondent because it was happening. And I didn't know that that was there in me. Like, I really didn't. Like, part of me was like, they all have to do it. We're going to get through it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, shit is real and it's affecting me. And this is a person I don't know. Like, it's so weird.
Yes. And so for those of you who don't really like haven't like invested in the BTS experience, which is fine, I think something that makes it a little bit different too, when a K-drama actor potentially enlists is, and I'm not saying like better or worse at all, like there's no judgment here. It's more that the difference is that BTS, and they're not alone in this in K-pop, but you know, I'm just going to speak to this group. They have lived for the last 10 years in a very Truman Show-esque life.
Yes.
Which means that much of their life, not all of their life, but much of their life has been documented and has been put out for public consumption. And we can talk about what's good and what's bad in that and like how much agency folks have in that, how, you know, as time has gone on, they've like had more ability to kind of like make choices of like what parts of themselves they're representing. But the point is that you just see like there is enough content that arguably we could watch something new every day until he gets back and be like, still have time probably. And so I think it makes it feel a little bit more of that parasocial relationship of like, you know, obviously we're not like friends with Jin and we, you know, whatever, like we can have dreams or whatever.
I am.
Yeah. But I feel like we get to see a lot of them, even if it's curated, that gives insights to them and their personality. So you react to them and think about them in a way that is different than I feel like I do for K-drama actors, simply because I'm not seeing them on that.
That makes a lot of sense. That does.
And so, yeah, like if I saw Kang Tae-oh like live 10 years of his life, I might have more of an emotional reaction when he left.
And don't get me wrong, if Kang Tae-oh was putting out content every day, I would be all over it.
Yeah, I think I would too. I mean, yeah. I want to see how he makes his ramyeon and like hangs out and plays video games. So yeah, so that's what's tricky is that, so how I felt that day is I woke up feeling kind of nothing. Like, and that's often where I go emotionally, like that disassociated state when like bigger things are happening. So I really felt nothing. I accessed no real emotions about it. But as the day kind of kept going and, you know, I knew that on Monday, like, you know, it's Tuesday in South Korea. He's going to enlist at some point in the day and we're going to hear about it. As it went on, it started to feel very ritualized. Like he made a statement that was basically like, it's time for the final curtain call and like posted that. And I was like, I'm starting to feel as if this is what it must have been like in like King Henry VIII's England, as there's like executions and it's very ritualized. Like I was just thinking about how like there are all these steps of like these like norms that like somehow everyone agrees to that seem very like his final goodbye. And I was like, oh my gosh, for like weeks we've been doing this. Like the final song, the final show, the final live, the final statement to fans. And then there's like the convoy that like goes into the barracks where he's doing his training. All the members are there. You don't see anything. You just see the cars and like the windows all blacked out. Then we get the photo of like all the members with their hands on his shaved head. Then we get him walking away. I was like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm in like some sort of fucking like, yeah, I don't know. All I was thinking of was like watching the Tudors, you know, back in, you know, however long, 10 years ago, and like watching like the Anne Boleyn execution where it was like, how wild is it that you like walked out to do this thing and you know, you're going to die. Like, not
right. And there's an audience.
And you have to do all these things. Like, you have to, like, forgive the king and take your dress, like, you know, move your fancy dress stuff off. So tie your hair back. And I was like, oh, I feel like it's like this. It's like there's like these very ritualized steps to the process, which felt wild. And which, you know, old timer K-pop folks, they're like, yeah, we've been through this before. Look, it's new for me. So I was a bit like, holy shit, this feels weird.
Agree. And again, like I was surprised by my own sort of subconscious reaction to it because I didn't think I was going to react.
I hope you get to have more dreams because the other thing that I'm just going to say here is I've had a dream and I've disclosed it to you just before the show. I'm not going to get into it too much in the pod. I've had a little spicy dream once, but really, I don't tend to have dreams like that in general.
Yeah, this dream was not spicy. It was very wholesome.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not trying to limit that. Yeah. Okay. So I've had a spicy dream. I don't think I've had really many. I've had like a few wholesome-ish dreams. But I'm trying to think, like, it seems very unfair that I have this brain that has the capacity to do so much and that I can't just be like, brain, it's time to go to bed. Tonight, I want to order up, like, I'm going to take Megan, because she's not here. I'm going to steal one of her boyfriends. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to take On Bo-hyun tonight. Like, I dial him up on my brain.
That would be amazing.
I'd like to go to bed, put that file in my brain, and I'd like to see what we come up with in my subconscious. Why does my brain not do that? My brain's just like, has nothing, or I just have stress dreams where I'm still at university and I'm like, I'm meant to graduate, but I still haven't taken like one class, so I'm one credit short.
Do you still have like you missed your finals dream?
I have, that I'm a credit, 1 to 3 credits short of graduation. I have that dream like once a month.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I've had that in a long time.
Where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is a failure to So anyway, if anyone has the ability to kind of dial in their brain to like set the tone for great dreams, because like often I'm watching.
You're supposed to be able to okay, I'm not trying to get like all like woo woo with everybody here, but in what I've read about like manifesting and stuff like that, you're supposed to be able to manifest while you sleep, but you have to think about the thing before you. Like, you have to concentrate on thinking about the thing before you go to bed. So have you actually tried to think about dreaming about An Bo-hyun? Like, try it.
I'm going to try it this week. I will report back next week.
Okay.
Every night I'm going to go to bed and set my intention as I'm falling asleep heavily on some creative being. I don't know. I'll see what I'm in the mood for as I'm like getting ready for bed.
Yeah.
And I will report back and tell you if anything interesting happens.
Okay.
So everyone sit at the end of your seats for whatever dirty dream my brain's going to cough up here. And if my kids are listening, I'm so sorry.
She's going to dream that An Bo-hyun was proctoring her final and she missed it.
Yeah. I mean, if he could be like dressed as he was in Descendants of the Sun, which was not in much, then like that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, he was dressed in even less in Itaewon Class when he was doing those push-ups, so.
Or in Her Private Life when he's taking a sad shower.
Oh, sad shower.
Look, yeah, I really do love him, and Megan doesn't get to call dibs on him always because he just is a really interesting and cool person.
Sad shower Eungi, like, bring it.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. Well, we have talked about like we want to have a little romance in our dreams, a little fantasy and a little romance.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be with somebody. I just wanted to be with somebody who I could not biologically have birthed, even if I was, just a teen.
Right. So you know what? Set that intention for yourself. Let's see what you come back with. You do it too. Let's see. Okay. Let's do it. Let's not communicate on this topic again. Okay. And then next week, we can share our results, freak Megan out, and hear where we both got. But like, let's not talk about this whole week.
I mean, how am I sleeping next to? I'm moving out of the way so Leah can see. I'm in my room. She can see my bed behind me. How am I sleeping next to a double-sided Lee Min-ho pillow and having 0 Lee Min-ho dreams? Is what I want to know.
Yeah. So tell a little bit about why you were sleeping next to.
Yes. So I did not just go and purchase myself a Lee Min-ho pillow. I would never do such a thing. But if somebody purchases a Lee Min-ho pillow for me, I'm going to display it prominently. And so friend of the pod, Sarah, who everybody knows is K-Drama This on Instagram, who is a fantastic K-Drama blogger and also has guested on our podcast before, she had a work trip to Seoul, South Korea. And if anybody could do it up right and do the perfect work trip turned into a K-drama fandom trip, she did it. I mean, I was glued to her Instagram for the entire trip and for weeks after as she keeps uploading content. But wonderful and generous as Sarah is, she sent us some gifts for us and some gifts to give away to our listeners, which we are going to be doing soon. But the one that was definitely for me to keep, like you would have to pry it out of my cold, dead hands, was this Lee Min-ho double-sided, like little throw pillow. And I mean, my 13-year-old son was like, So I see you have a new pillow in your bed. Happened to like come into my room for something, and I'm like, yeah, let's name it Ho. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. So he's. I mean, I do not have throw pillows on my bed, but now I do. I have one, and I'm not ashamed.
Mama's got a brand new bag.
Yeah. And she's not dreaming about him yet. So setting my intentions.
Setting your intentions. So yeah, big shout out to Sarah. It was not a requirement at all that she had to send us anything. And it was a humongous delight to receive some treats. And I am not too shy to say what was intended for me because it was ridiculous. And I mean that in like a way that is also a synonym for awesome. And I got a Suga or a Minyoongi, who is my favorite member of BTS. I got a Barbie doll of him. And I mean, I have a shrine now because I am embracing my power as a 43-year-old woman to like what I like without shame. And I also have my own apartment because of my job, which means that when I'm on call, I have to live on campus. So I have a campus apartment, and I have turned it into my own personal clubhouse with like a record player. I just kind of come up here and go hog wild on like all my stuff. And this entails also having a BTS shrine. And it started off with like being like a low key BTS shrine of like 7 prayer candles. And I was like, wow, that's a lot for me. Like, wow, I really kind of like went for it with the prayer candles. At this point, Amy, later I will show you, because I don't want to like unplug anything, what it has turned into. It really is something. And last weekend, it was raining really hard here. And it doesn't rain hard very often. And I'm in, this is like an older building on campus. And so I was here working, and there was a leak. The roof started to leak, which was, it's not my roof, so it's fine. I put out a bucket, but like that meant that I had to like let the university know that they needed to fix the roof. So they
had to come into your apartment.
Contractors. Yeah. And I also work here, remember, so I don't just have a place here. Like I also am like collegial staff with like some of the maintenance folks or whatever. So I have like 7 dudes in my apartment with my Suga Barbie doll. I have a 8x10 Suga picture hanging up. I've got prayer candles. I have a framed picture of Jimin. I've got V in leather shorts on a Vogue magazine cover. I have much set out, displayed prominently. And I love it when people just don't say a damn thing. Like they're probably just in their head like, okay. And I don't acknowledge it. And nobody says anything.
It's not your job to acknowledge.
Yeah. My cousin's husband came and stayed here for a week recently. Not a word. Not a word about the shrine.
Seriously?
Oh, no. I'm sure it made him very uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm not going to explain anything. Like, if you want to ask me a question, I will tell you, but I'm not going to, and I have to work on that. I have to work to not apologize. But I was like, I've made a call that I'm not going to be like, oh, do you see this thing? It's silly. Because
right, no, don't discount it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look, is it kind of silly to me? Maybe, but like, not really. Like, it's. But also
it makes
awesome.
you happy, right?
Yeah,
like, if something makes you happy and it's not hurting anybody else, like that's like the hard and fast rule. Fuck everybody else. Like, who cares? Like, I mean, you're not gonna be able to see, but on my shelf behind me, it's growing. Oh, you can see Gongyu. So. Yeah. Sarah let us pick a couple of things out of the stuff that she sent. She's like, pick a couple things for yourself, and, the rest is going to be used for giveaways. So I've also got a Gongyu calendar, and I'm not ashamed of that. And it's next to my framed painting of Hyunbin that Megan got us early on. Also, another friend of the pod, Megan, who is actually one of the hosts of Afternoona Army. She sent me a little astronaut ornament.
Yes.
So amazing. I got like a little Jin like care package from her. So that's up there. I mean, like, I love it. It makes me happy. It reminds me of this extreme source of joy that we found in late 2020 when things were really, really bleak.
Yes.
And it's continued to be this wonderful source of joy. And I'm not, we do not apologize for that.
No, we do not apologize for it. And I had an interesting, and then we're going to, we need to move on soon, but I had an interesting thing where my daughter the other night was talking to me and being like, I feel like I like things that are weird. And I was like, tell me more. And what she liked was anime, K-dramas, and K-pop. And I was like, well, I'm not like, tell me more how that feels weird. Like what there feels weird. And it was that, within her friend group, that's not like a normal thing to like any of those things. And so she was feeling isolated in it. And I just wanted to be like, look, you have a long way to go till you're 43 and just have a shameless, shrine up in your house. But like, my God, how much do we try just from such an early age to like take away people's joy? And I mean, the friends aren't even trying.
Because you have to fit into this like mold,
yeah.
Right? Like you fit into this mold of whatever your peer group is. And I think a lot of us miss out on a lot when we're younger because of that. If we're not brave enough, like your daughter is, to like the things that you like and not hide it, And so I think like even now, like not everybody in my life knows that I even do this podcast. And then when they do find out, I have to I feel like I have to give like a little bit of a TED talk, to explain, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. Why do I spend all this time with K-drama? Why do I watch more, Korean content than I do Western content? And I shouldn't have to, but it's that feeling of what I like is very different than what you like. And so let me explain it away, kind of thing, mm-hmm. where it should just be like, I love this thing and I talk about it all the time. But I think that's what's really wonderful is that what we've gotten from this pod is that it was just the three of us at first, right? We were like, nobody understands us. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just us in this little like tiny microcosm who loves this. And then we found a whole community by doing this podcast.
Yes.
And Bronte will find her community. I mean, or she will find friends that are hopefully the type of friends that are like, you like what you like, I like what I like, and we can share.
Yeah, and that's a big growth that happens. And it's just like that middle school brain is very much aligned to social norming and conforming. And so it's really tricky. Mm-hmm. It's hard. So I guess cheers to all of us that we are past middle school and that, we can all be celebrating our own coolness, however that looks.
Even if it's a shrine.
Correct.
All shrines welcome.
All shrines here. Welcome here. But do you know what's not welcome here?
Sometimes some dramas are not welcome here.
Dramas that romantically make me feel a bit dry.
Yeah, wanting.
Yeah. So let's get into it for today. I think we've been like chatting to avoid the elephant in the room, which is going to suck. Which is going to suck the fun out. See what I did here?
Agree. Yeah.
We're talking about Love is for Suckers, y'all.
We are. And look, let's just start by saying if you enjoyed this drama, good. Like we want you to have enjoyed this drama. There are things about this drama that we did enjoy, but it did not pay off the way we hoped it would going into it. And so that's kind of where we are today. So let's just jump into it because, of course, we always start without spoilers. So let's get into just a little bit of trope talk. So let's talk about a romance trope, best friends to lovers, which is what this drama has. I've written it, I've read it, I've watched it. And while I do enjoy it, the one thing I've found as a common thread, even in my own writing of the trope, is that more often than not, in a friends to lovers scenario, at least one friend has kind of always had feelings for the other, which means that even while they've been friends, at least one has been pining, possibly for years. Maybe it's timing, maybe it's fear, but for one reason or another, the two people in question have never gotten together until something pushes them to act. And that's where we get like our books or our dramas or whatever that have this trope. It's like, what is the catalyst that finally makes somebody like step out, from the wings and be like, actually, I love you. So Leah, I know that you have thoughts on this trope.
I do. And I think, okay, let's just go with that like very, I think, like well-tread question of, can two people who share the same sexuality and are not unattractive and have common interests just be friends? It's basically the When Harry Met Sally question. Which
is like one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
But it deals with this, like, can you be friends?
Yeah. Can you just be friends? So I think that first, what makes me think about this from like a writer's lens is, rather than starting with the friends to lovers trope, which is what this was, is I want to talk first about enemies to lovers, which is, the reverse of it. And I think we see that, a lot more often in dramas. And a truth bomb that I saw recently attached to enemies for lovers that I thought was really interesting, and I don't think I've ever quite gotten it out of my head. Like, I think about this a couple times a week, is one reason why enemies to lovers may be so popular is the idea that someone can see you at your worst and still love you. And I was like, ugh, like that's like a powerful thing. Also, there's just innate conflict built in to two people who, are in adversity coming together and falling in love. Like that, like the plot can build into that really quickly. I think it's a lot more complicated when we have friends to lovers. So, can it be healthier and potentially less toxic? Yes, because these are people who started off as, acquaintances or friends, like buddies. And so they have things in common. They like each other. They respect each other. But the thing is like, my question is always like, but why are they only getting together now? Like, why now?
Yeah.
Like, is this because like one of them feels like they're settling? Is it the time? It's usually the timing, and one person's been pining. You kind of talked about that, and pining can be hot, but it can also be kind of frustrating to like the reader or the viewer, I think, as well. But I feel like, settling and timing are not very romantic options. And it feels like it can just be a little bit dull sometimes. So, the things that can make it fun are like, did one of them like see the other do something unexpectedly super sexy? Like, did we have like a Mr. Darcy in the rain kind of moment? And all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, I never saw you like that before. But I think there's always in the back of my mind, like, you never really thought about it ever. Like, maybe I'm just like, I don't know. I'm like, you never really did? Like, really? And do I have male friends? Of course I have male friends. But I would say that my male friends are generally partnered with like my other friends. And so like that leaves me not really. And so, I'm not trying to like put this in too much to say like it's impossible, but I'm just saying that like when I look around my life right now, I was trying to be like, okay, like who are my guy friends? Like who are my buds? Like I must have like a guy friend, right? That's like just a friend. And I was like, I work with a lot of queer men, but that's different. I work with a lot of non-binary folk. That's different. I have friends who I might hang out with, even like, for like go do something, but they're married to usually another one of my friends. And like, obviously, could that get problematic? Not in this case, none of these cases, but like in life, could it? Sure. But like in my cases, no. And then I was like, well, shit, man. Like, I don't really have, like once I've done that, like, like my best friend is a gay man. So yes, I have like male friends, but I don't have a single hot dude friend that's just like, I'm like, oh, I've never considered you before. You're just out there living your life. I'm just saying it just doesn't happen to me.
Okay, so I'm going to quibble with one thing that you said, because I don't think that friends to lovers has to, and I know you're not saying this is what it always is, but I've never seen friends to lovers as settling. What I do think as far as timing, I think when we do see friends to lovers and I'm talking about in entertainment, because not in real life, because off the top of my head, I don't know anybody who was just like BFFs, then all of a sudden they fell in love, or maybe I do, but I just don't know it right now. But anyway, I see it more as, you're afraid to admit those feelings. It's easier to just be friends, especially when it happens younger. And we can talk about it, in terms of the drama, because this isn't a spoiler, but the two main characters in the drama are friends for like 20 years before anything happens. And so they meet when they're like in their late teens. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're not brave enough to act on your feelings then. And then you do kind of just fall into that friend zone until, like I said, like there's some sort of catalyst where maybe they're about to commit to a lifelong relationship, or something like that. And what makes you finally say, okay, if I don't shoot my shot, I'm never going to get the chance again.
Yeah. I think that that's reasonable. So usually one of them is pining. I'd say settling is very uncommon in romance. So I apologize for bringing that up. But someone pining, yes. However, usually there's one person who's like oblivious.
Yes, agree.
And I find that to be always straining my credulity that you never, did I have guy friends in college? Yes. Did I hook up with most of them a little bit? Also, yes. I just, you know what I mean? Look, I don't want to get emails and like people writing being like, well, look, I've had just like a friend. Like, I believe it exists. Like, it must exist.
Right.
I'm just saying, I don't think that when I see the scenarios, I'm always a little suspicious that like somebody's just never been like, oh, like, especially if it's like a sexy, like an objectively very attractive person, which is what we're getting usually in fantasy spaces.
Right.
So yeah, so then it becomes like, what's the conflict keeping them apart? It better be something pretty interesting and compelling. And yeah, we'll see. Did that meet the test in this one?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about as far as did it meet expectations, but let's give like just a little overview of the drama. So yes, Leah mentioned that we're talking about Love is for Suckers. With Lee Da-hee is Guya Rum, PD whose shows keep getting canceled, and Choi Si-won as Park Jae-hoon, a neurosurgeon who left the hospital after a traumatic incident that made him question his worth as a doctor. The two have been best friends for 20 years and live on the bottom and top floors of the same sort of like two-flat. And when Guyo Rum's team is desperate to fill the final spot for its upcoming dating reality show, Kingdom of Love Season 2, she enlists Park Jae-hoon to do her a solid, and he does, even though he's the one who's been pining. So that's where we'll hit the pause button because, as always, we start by talking about the drama with no spoilers. Then we give you a heads up when we're ready to enter spoiler town, so you can pause and go watch the drama if you want to, if you don't want to know what comes next.
And look, can I jump in for a second? Because I just had a thought. And I was like, you know, because I was also like, God, I'm being such a hater. And like, I know that I don't just like always hate friends to lovers. Like, there are good examples. And then one like perfect example just hit me, which I think will be maybe a good comparison. I hadn't intended to do this, but maybe in this drama I can kind of unpack some of it. And that is going back to Hospital Playlist 1 and 2, where we have Ik-jun and Sung-hwa, who are two doctors. And part of the did they have feelings for each other when they were younger? Yeah, they did. Like, they both acknowledged that like there was a spark. However, the male doctor, Ik-jun, his bestie also had a spark for the girl. And he kind of was like, look, I'm not going to let this get away of the friendship. We're just going to like,
he stepped aside.
Yeah, put these feelings. And like, you know, it never worked out between the other two. But like at that point, then it became, now you're almost just like so important to me. And this friend group is so important to me that I don't know how to like get around that, because now what we have is kind of working so well that I am really scared to lose that. And that I think is the real risk in a good friends to lovers, is like, if it doesn't work out, the conflict is like, this could be a profoundly affecting thing in your life because this person's so important to you. So if it doesn't work out, like, it could really fuck things.
Right. Then you don't have them in your life at all.
And that one I bought. Like, I completely believe that. And that was enough to...
What about Fight for My Way? Fight for My Way is another good one.
Look, I mean, like, there we go. That's another really good one. It works.
Yeah.
And that one was even more interesting because I could believe, and this is a straining of credulity, that the heroine was not looking at Park Seo-joon romantically. And that's amazing. That like that was possible.
Right.
I believed it. I believed, given the dynamic and how they set it up, that she, you know, and they'd known each other from such a young age, and like that she kind of like mommed him so much that she almost hadn't gotten to where she was seeing him as like the whole man he was. And that worked. And also, honestly, Itaewon class with this a little bit, and that like we had the one pining for the other, and it takes him until the end to kind of get out of his own head. But I also believed, given his circumstances, and this, not everyone believes this, like it didn't work for Megan, but it worked for me. So I guess I'm just trying to like unpack that. Like, yes, I feel like friends to lovers can work, and it can work in ways that I really like. But in this one,
the setup matters. The
setup matters, and the characterizations matter.
Absolutely. The chemistry has to be there as friends, but also have that potential for more, where you believe, like, you need to believe them as friends in order for there to even be a conflict of, oh my gosh, what if we take this further and it doesn't work out, kind of thing.
Yes. And you have to want them to. You have to be like, oh my God, I want you to be together. And I don't know if I ever really felt like that.
No, I was going to say, in order to do that, you need to create tension. And in order to create that tension, you have to have the characters playing opposite each other on the screen. And for, you know, like 12 episodes in this drama, they didn't.
Yeah,
so
they're barely around.
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. So if you've listened to the pod for a while, you know that your Nunas talk a lot about our floor, which is our age floor. Basically, how low
can we go?
How low can we go? We're playing a little bit of limbo here with how low we can go with actors that we find attractive and still not be considered dirty ajumas. Hence, my wholesome dream about Kim Suk-jin.
I think that I'm just kind of like on that. Like, I'm not full dirty, but I'm definitely like gardening without gloves.
Well, I mean, like, look, in our defense, it's not our fault. Like, we blame people like Rowoon, Kang Tae-oh, and like BTS. So when we heard about a new drama where the characters and actors were well into their 30s, which still is younger than us, we were excited. This is not to say that there are no other dramas out there about adults dealing with adulting, but I feel like it had been a while since we'd watched like just a straight up romance about straight up grown-ups. So we were pumped.
Yes.
But what I find curious is how Yoram, at a whopping 37, in this drama, like, age is a big deal. And at a whopping 37, she's often treated like she's like one step away from being Miss Havisham. I don't think I'm alone here. Like, what do you think about the treatment of age? Like, I think about being 37. I was like, I was a baby when I was 37.
Well, if you are part of this drama, if you are 37, I'd say that you are teetering on a cliff of becoming a sexless hag spinster with a vagina full of cobwebs and a herd of cats. And these cats are only there to wait for your eventual death, where you're going to die alone and unfucked, and they're going to eat your lonely corpse. I mean, they made it seem like it was fucked. Like, she was
like
done.
it was bleak. The outlook was bleak.
Done. Hope gone. The gates of Mordor, just like, just take your vagina and dig a hole and put up a monument.
I mean, like, from episode 1.
Yeah.
From episode 1, her age was being harped on.
Yes.
And the fact that she was single and 37.
Yes. Like, we were in the unsea. We were off the map, past There Be Dragons, and she was floating alone in a little canoe in the unsea of undesirability. Really.
With her vagina full of cobwebs.
Yeah, just like giant spiders.
So this is not to say that I couldn't get past that and go with the drama, because I did find it charming as well in the first few episodes. And so even though we had, Guyo Rum as being treated like a sexless hag, I was still on board. But then the pacing kind of took a turn for me. Like, without getting spoilery yet, the first 4 episodes work as exposition, mainly for Guyo Rum. Like, it's pretty much her story in the first 4 episodes, don't you think?
Yes. And I would say not particularly interesting for me. Like, it was okay.
Well, I mean, we'll get into it when we get into the spoilery section, but I don't know if you saw in our script, but I brought up the idea of plot moppet, because really we had a plot moppet for the first 4 episodes. And we'll get there. So plot moppets, if you didn't listen to our plot moppet episode, I think that was for the Patreon anyway, wasn't it?
Yes.
It might have been for the Patreon. It was a Patreon snack. So why don't you define plot moppet, because you do this one.
Plot moppets, I mean, often they're regarded as like children, which is like the moppet idea of like, it is a character that kind of is just there stuck in to create some sort of conflict, but they're often a very one-dimensional character. There's not a lot of depth. They're there just to cause like some sort of drama in the plot. And that's about it. And often I think you can see them get used more towards like the saggy middle of a story, where, you're kind of like, you've done the setup and now you're kind of like not sure where to go before like the end is like the payoff is happening. So there's some sort of plot moppet drama in the middle. Interesting choice of the plot moppet. And this happens at the very beginning. And then we're kind of like done with them.
Yeah. So literally, like, it's a character who's just a vehicle for one of the leads to have a conflict.
Yes.
That's it. The way that this works is we have these first 4 episodes of exposition for Guyo Ram, and then, like, the latter 12 are all while they're filming Kingdom of Love Season 2.
Which is a reality dating show.
Yes. So it's a show about a reality dating show. All right, let's talk about the leads. because I was excited for this, and I know that you were too. Like, this is my first Choi Siwon drama. But you fell for his portrayal of the second lead, and She Was Pretty. Like, you wrote it. That was your first SOS,
It was,
wasn't it?
and I felt very strongly. I had a huge emotional reaction to watching She Was Pretty. And I had one of the worst cases of second male lead syndrome probably the worst case I've ever had. And that's
even having him up against Park Seo-joon, too.
Yes. I mean, I was like, without hyperbole, a situation where like I could have just picked up my laptop and like Hulk thrown it across the room. Like, I was just like 2 a.m, like, no, at the end, like very upset. So here's what's interesting though, is that like that, I loved that. I loved that drama. I didn't love the drama, but I loved him and his character and how he played it. And I was really into it. And so like with all faves, I'm like, oh, I got to learn a little more. So this is where I want to give a disclosure that I am carrying very, very clear bias in this drama as well. And I'm going to talk about it here because it did impact how I
100%.
approached the drama. I could separate it to a point to find fault that was beyond like my bias. But I want to talk about like, okay, so you know when you find someone, you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to learn more about them. Google. So in this case, I was like, oh, there's a lot here that I'm not loving. And then I was like, oh, there's a lot here I'm really like disliking. So basically, this actor, Siwon, he was also in Super Junior, which is a popular K-pop group. He's made a lot of problematic statements over his tenure, from, affirming that he believes that marriage should be between a man and a woman, which, I'm not loving the homophobia in general. I'm really not liking it in, an industry like K-pop, like just really like that was unlikable. He's a very big Ronald Reagan fanboy, which like, no, not to me. He has gone on to social media and liked posts with Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. And I mean, at that point, like there's another pod out there called Grown Ass Fandom, which sometimes I listen to and I enjoy. And they talk about fantasy spaces and describe it as you build kind of sex castles of fantasy about people. And so it'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm really like vibing on, like for you, Jin. And I've got like myself, like a big old Disney sex castle going right now for Jin. So for me, I was like, I kind of had been like erecting a well fortified like French chateau for Siwon. And by the time I kind of got into all of this and like saw that he was like an Elon Musk fanboy and like liking Donald Trump and Ted Cruz eating dinner together on Twitter, I mean, it was like somebody in my medieval chateau.
You can only suspend your, yeah.
Yeah, somebody in my medieval chateau lit a fire and it was like rubble. And then I kind of just like let it go and walked away. I was like, nope, my sex castle is done. Like, this is not for me. I am out. And so when I saw this drama come back, I was like, oh, but also like, God, he is real cute. So maybe I can just like get over it because like.
And I didn't know any of this stuff when this drama came out either.
Yes.
And so what happened was the first couple of episodes, I'm like, I knew that you liked him from She Was Pretty. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my gosh, this man is charming as fuck.
Yeah.
And so what do? I Google.
Yes.
And then I text you and I was like, Leah, is this like, is this real? And you're like, yeah.
I was like, oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of icky things here with this dude. And look, you may be listening at home and being like, you know what? Fuck off. I love Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. And you know what? This is my podcast.
We're not building sex castles about you, though.
Yeah, and this is my podcast, and I'm allowed to feel the way I do politically, and I'm allowed to say, you know what? Like, it is hard for me. It is impossible for me to find someone attractive if I know that they're actively looking to support things that hurt people I care about and contribute to a world that I do not value. And so I was unable to come into this drama and say, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy the ride of a rom-com, because every time I saw him, I'd be like, cute and really? Like, yeah, really? Like, and I just could never get past it. And so
that's the whole thing.
I'm going to disclose that really is something that, you could be very much disagreeing with at home and thinking you should be able to separate this all. I cannot. And it's just a reality, and I have to acknowledge it.
And I think it's fine for any of us to walk into whatever entertainment we're consuming with whatever outside baggage we bring to it. Maybe you bring none and maybe you bring a ton, and that's fine. And we're all coming at this from different experiences, and it's going to cause us to have a different experience while we're watching a drama. And that's why we don't all love the same things, and that's okay. And so once again, if you loved this drama, if you love, Siwon, that is your right to do so.
Yep. Just like it's my right to say no.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's our right that if knowing some of the things that he does in his real life affects the way that we see him on screen, then so be it. Like, I'm not able to separate that. However, I am able to look at the drama itself, I think, as objectively as possible as far as the story of it. And despite all of the things that we've said so far, there is stuff that we did enjoy, but there is stuff that we pick apart as well that has nothing to do with Siwon. So there you go.
Yeah. And I mean, that's it. So we're going to be able to talk about it without this, but I did want to put it out there in just like the nature of disclosure, because I do think that, we do approach our entertainment through personal lenses. And I think that it's responsible to acknowledge that in critique.
Yes. So one quick thing before we get into spoilers. So this is a drama about a dating reality show, and it stars Lee Da-hee, who is one of the commentators or hosts of an actual reality dating show, Singles Inferno, and the new, season 2 that just dropped, the first 2 episodes as of right now, Singles Inferno 2. Because I did not watch Singles Inferno 1, but I will be diving into Singles Inferno 2 because it's too meta for me not to. I just want to know, because I don't know what's going to happen when I watch Singles Inferno, how much similarity do you see in what we saw in the drama compared to what you saw in an actual Korean dating show?
I think that's a good question. And for me, I would say, there were some good comparisons, although I'm out as enjoying Singles Inferno for what it is. And so, but I mean, I guess I'm not seeing any of the ick that's happening backstage. But, dating shows rely on sensationalism. And that was very much the same for both, both shows, or the show, and the drama, and also Singles Inferno. Is there's a lot of sensationalism, and there's a lot of, you're not doing these dramas to look at the whole person and all their many features and facets, are you? The point is to kind of be you're the person that does X, and this is your kind of character archetype, and we're going to watch you through that lens. And that's what gives it sort of the mindless element. I will say that in Singles, we do see Lee Da-hee wanting to bring in humanity sometimes more to the show. And I think in Singles Inferno, we do see moments of, do we see moments? I don't know. It's probably a little bit manufactured, but I felt I saw more humanity than I was expecting. I think when we did our Singles Inferno show, Megan had talked about how reality TV for her had been Flava of Love, which unfortunately, I had not ever seen.
Neither have I.
For The Bachelor. And I found Singles Inferno to be kind of more interesting than that. There were elements of self-reflection and introspection. And it could just very well be not a big deal if you're Korean. You're just yeah, that's just part of what our shows would be doing. And we expect that. But for me, there was that was interesting in seeing it. And I felt I connected a little bit to it. But really, when you're looking at reality TV, you're not looking to, it's not a documentary. And so, people are meant to, behave badly or salaciously, and that's going to be really good for the show.
Good. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But first, let's do one of our favorite things that is, I think, a very positive part of our show, even if we have not been loving on a drama, and that is our K-pop Rec of the Week. So, Leah, what do you have for us this week?
I'm going to go with something that came out this year. It's very, very popular, very played out, and people have big feelings about, but I enjoy it. And that is going to be Blackpink, who I like Blackpink, and I have fun listening to their music. I'm going to go with Shutdown. I listen to the song probably once a week. It's part of a hype mix I have. And I feel it's just something that is catchy, earwormy, gets me shaking my booty in my minivan a little bit. And yeah, I think it's an unabashedly simple yet fun song that makes me happy to hear. So I'm going to go with that. Like, just something that, you know, we don't have to like, it's not going to be like Indigo, which I got into like the whole Namjoon album recently on one of our recs. But this is just a song that I think, you know, it's fun to listen to and it makes me happy.
That's all we can ask for.
Yeah.
If you enjoy our podcast, you have our patrons to thank, at least in part. Afternoona Delight Patreon allows us to keep creating content for y'all to enjoy. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us there. And not to brag, but our Patreon community is pretty awesome. And you can join at a tier that feels good to you. Gain access to fun perks like K-drama posts, monthly Patreon-only bonus podcasts, and even a live K-drama support group on Zoom. Because we know firsthand what it's like to have no one to talk to about those crazy plot twists, amazing characters, and all those feelings. And look, no one should have to walk that walk alone. So learn more by visiting afternoonadelight.com. That's www.afternoonadelight.com. And hey, while you're on the website, you can check out Afternoona Delight podcast merch, find links to book recommendations, bop along to our K-pop recs, glow up your skin with K-merch recs, find all of our social media, and a link to our email so you can send us recommendations or feedback. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you pop over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review? It really helps with our discoverability. 감사합니다.
So what kinds of things do you both like to do when you drive?
Pay attention to the road? Is this a trick question?
All right, how about when you fold laundry?
Why am I folding laundry in this scenario?
Read, friends. I was trying to get you to say read.
You could just ask us if we like to read when we drive, or... Wait, how are you reading when you're driving?
With Audible, you know, our sponsor, who is the leading creator and provider of premium audio storytelling, enriching the lives of millions of listeners every day. I listen to audiobooks on my commute to work, in the car.
Oh yeah, I totally do that. I love my Audible subscription.
Then why'd you leave me hanging with the whole driving thing? Forget it. It's not important. What is important is that now our listeners can get a 30-day free trial of Audible Premium Plus from Afternoona Delight. Do you know what they get with that free trial?
Actually, I do. They get 1 audiobook credit, 2 if they are Prime members, which is good for any premium selection, and they get to keep that audiobook.
They also get the whole Audible Plus catalog of podcasts like Afternoona Delight, audiobooks, guided wellness, and Audible originals.
And with the Plus catalog, you can listen all you want, no credits needed.
And Audible sends you a reminder email before your trial ends.
Sounds like a great way to spend 30 days to me, especially if you're heading outside for a walk, have a long commute to work, or just want to hear one of many talented narrators really bring your book to life. All you have to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/afternoona to sign up, and you're ready to download your first listen. Enjoy!
Okay, so here we go. From here on out, we are kind of in that land of 37-year-old sexless vaginas past the land of dragons, known as the spoiler section. So we're going to be talking about this drama in detail. You know, we're going to be sparing no spoilers as we do this. So if you have not watched the drama and still want to, without finding out who on Kingdom of Love goes home with who, now it's time to hit pause and head over to Viki to check it out. Otherwise, let's get to it. What we liked, which really was like a certain pairing on the reality show. What we didn't, which was some less than sensitive portrayals of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And whether or not Amy will actually watch a real reality dating show after watching this drama about a dating reality show. Did that make sense after I got that all out? I don't know, but let's get to it.
As mentioned earlier, the drama spends the first 4 episodes setting up Guyo Rum's conflict. She's 37 and unmarried, and her cooking show is failing in the ratings, as is her flirtation with the show's host, the younger John Jong. woe is she. Until her knight in shining armor, or her ex-fiancé, Kim In-woo, blows back into town after a few years in the US, claiming he still loves her and that he wants to try again. And that's kind of what split them up, is he wanted her to come with her to the US, and she's like, but I have a career, and he's like, but what about us? Blah, 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 they broke up. Of course, this is the catalyst to push Park Jae-hoon into realizing he's in love with Yo-ram.
And this is like all within like the first couple episodes.
4 episodes, yes. And to finally confess his feelings. But he waits too long, and Yo-ram gets re-engaged to In-woo, only to find out on their wedding day that he got a woman pregnant and a one-night stand in New York.
And was she in love when she got married, or was she just like, I don't want to die alone with the cats?
No, want to talk about settling. Like, yes. She was well over him. But it was the whole, like, my vagina has cobwebs. Everybody expects me to do this.
Yep.
He's asking. Yep. There's a ring. Yep. And that's really what it was.
And I mean, we were only like a minute into the drama too.
Yeah. Like, pretty much. Yeah. So this drama has some drama, which we love, but I have some thoughts on these first 4 episodes. In-woo, played by the gorgeous and 46-year-old Song Jong-ho, is basically nothing more than what I said earlier, a plot moppet. His only purpose is to make Gu-yo-ram not mentally or emotionally ready to respond to Jae-hoon's confession when he finally tells her how he feels after the wedding that wasn't. I initially really liked these first 4 episodes, but after the fact, I feel a little duped watching her fall for In-woo again and then be forced to call off the wedding due to his lie of omission. So, like, I'm not alone here, right? Like, we talked about pacing a little bit, but like, this guy had zero purpose in the drama. Right? He was just
I think it was to answer that question of, the writers are like, okay, we have to make this friends to lovers scenario work. These are 2 attractive people. They did meet each other, they were younger. Like, it wasn't like they were like raised in the orphanage together. Like, like they met as like, people with hormones.
They had a drunk kiss. And then we're too embarrassed to talk about it. And so nothing happened.
Okay. And so, they were like, okay, we need to like have a reason. Like, what's our reason? I guess we're going to have, her be really afraid that like she's going to die alone with, no vagina and cats eating her. And so immediately she's going to jump into this like settled marriage, and boom, it all falls apart. And I guess to me, it was just satisfying because it made me not really love her character. I don't like to not like the heroine in a drama, but I was like, really? Like, this is super settly. You have, the hot friend that like lives in your, they had a duplex, like a house, like one lived above the other. Really? Like, like, yes, he's gone through it for a while and there was like some mental illness on his side. So I can get like that you weren't like totally ready to jump his bones during that period. But like, at the same time, I was just a little bit like, this is not the most interesting setup. Like, I'm okay if like they weren't, like there needs to be some reason why. This just doesn't feel like the right choice to me, and in any of it. We spent a lot of time building up this like, 4 episodes. I mean, that's 4 hours of time.
Right. And I never once believed that she was in love
and we
with
knew
him
it wasn't
again.
going to go anywhere. So it's like, why are we spending all of our time right out of the gate when we want to be seeing kind of like the setup and see, like we want to kind of get into this world, and instead we're spending a lot of time being like, wow, you really don't know yourself. And I'm not sure if you're a person I want to spend another, 10 episodes, 12 episodes with.
12 episodes with. Yeah.
So that's it. It didn't work for me, and I thought it was boring. So it's time to cast Kingdom of Love season 2. That's kind of where we move after like the wedding doesn't work. So this character becomes like an assistant PD to this reality TV show. The head PD is the ruthless Kong Chae-ri, who will do anything for ratings. This person is a shark, and they're played by Jo Soo-hwang. And thoughts on this character as a foil to Gu Yo-ram, the PD who always plays it safe and keeps getting her shows canceled.
So even though I didn't like every decision the character made, I really liked Kang Chae-ri. Like, this character had character, Like, these character foils were really a study in what it's like to grow up with love and support, which is Yeorum's experience, versus without, which is Kang Chae-ri's experience. They both seem to pay their upbringing forward. Like Yeorum supports everyone around her, often putting her own needs on the back burner, while Chae-ri sees everyone as a means to an end in order for her to feel worthy, even if that means using a contestant's trauma, like Park Ji-won's on-air confession of being sexually assaulted. Chae-ri hates Yeorum because she thinks Yeorum has everything and never struggles. Yeorum shows Chae-ri love and compassion even when the latter tries to make her life a living hell. Like, my hope right now is that they're BFFs and have run off into the sunset, like a la In-hae and Hyo-rin from Little Women. Like, honestly, like, I was more invested in Kang Chae-ri than I was in Gu Yeorum.
Same. I really, really hated her determination to use trauma to further the show, but I thought that it was an honest portrayal of like often what happens in reality TV. I feel like this is like a very clear example though of something that I'm going to point to over and over and over as we finish out like our review of this drama, which is taking things that should be dealt with a nuanced and thoughtful lens and giving it very surface level treatment. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's lots of aspects of this character that worked interesting for me, and that, like, you know, she was kind of like girl boss, bitchy, you know, like that kind of archetype, which, you know, is often stereotypical, but there was a lot more beneath the surface and there was like growth that happens. Pairing her against like the milquetoast heroine, honest, like I just felt like that heroine, like they were just that idea of like, oh, I just like want to be good to everyone. I don't know, like I get it, but it was just like, it just felt very. That
was really all like Yeorum had, was that she gave too much of herself.
She wasn't even like that great. You know, I mean, like, I still didn't feel like she was, like, amazing with the hero. Like, there was just a lot with her where she was, like, real good, but also real dumb. And
yes, I was going to say clueless.
Clueless and completely unintrospective. And that didn't make for, like, fantastic, like, wow, I really am, like, rooting for this person. And I also super hate coming hard for heroines because I feel as if, like, you know, it's always easy to like throw them under the bus. But in this, I do. I just like how it was handled. So, all right, moving on.
And I do want to point out, like, we are not knocking Lee Da-hee's performance at all. Because I do like her as an actor. I do like her as an actor. I think it was not a well-written.
Yeah, I think that they did what they could with what they had. I mean.
Yeah. Okay, so as mentioned before, Yeorum gets reassigned from her failed ramen cooking show to Kingdom of Love Season 2. She comes in just in time to help with casting and is instrumental in putting Park Ji-won on the show, a contestant who was one of my favorite characters as far as Sun Hwa Ryong's portrayal. But she was definitely cast as the frumpy, not Victoria's Secret model caliber contestant. And I feel like the drama's intentions were in the right place with having Gu Yeorum championing a contestant who might otherwise get overlooked. But, and you already brought this up, like how things should have been dealt with in a very nuanced way, but instead were dealt with in a very surface level treatment. So talk to me, Leah, about the treatment of this character who is basically the foil, speaking of more foils, to another contestant, Jang Tae-mi. She's a contestant who is all about perception and looking perfect, even to the extent, and another thing that was dealt with very surface level, or really not at all, but even to the extent of going into the bathroom to make herself vomit after taking one bite of food that Jang prepared for her on their date. When we see Park Ji-won in the same scenario getting, you know, when Jang cooks for her, she just gobbles it all up, and it's supposed to be like, you're either this or that.
I can't tell you how much I hate this. I hate it so much. So first, I hate that we have ED, or an eating disorder, treated as just like a throwaway moment, and like you said, a foil to be like, look at how like compared to this other person. However, the other person I'm going to impact of like how shitty they get treated in it, because it's not like it was like, oh, this one person's like bad and the other person's good. It's like, we're going to really just like fucking take down almost everyone in this, but under the guise of like pretending like we're not. I don't know. So basically, look, when it comes to Ji-won, she is costumed ridiculously. And the writers have basically made her a caricature of a fat introverted virgin. And what's worse to me is I think that the show actually believed that they were handling her fatness well by connecting it to the fact that she sustained actual sexual abuse. And can body issues be connected to abuse? Absolutely. But should they be handled considerately if that's the case? Also, absolutely. And I'm going to argue that having this be kind of like a surface level treatment of like where we often are just seeing people remarking on this character being in a bigger body. And when she has this like trauma that also gets milked for reading. I mean, like this is like I was like, oh my God, there's like, this is just all
it's horrible
moral garbage. And is moral garbage kind of often what happens in reality dating shows? Yes. However, this was the characters in the drama like that. And then it would be like, look at everyone else looks great, but like, ew, they're vomiting and that sucks. But then we have like I was just like, so does the writer like just hate women? Like have they internalized like a lot of like blame and shame of like the experiences that women live in the society that were just not giving anyone sensitivity or treating them. Yeah. So I just feel like one of my huge issues with this drama was that a lot of very heavy material was shoehorned in. It wasn't treated with empathy. And I feel like it was actually just given lazy writing. And then we're meant to be like feeling rom-com vibes throughout it. And I was like, no.
No. Yeah. I mean, like speaking of, things being shoehorned in, we have another character, So-yeon, who she's another female contestant. And she had mental health issues that are used basically as a vehicle to prompt a very dramatic moment for Yo-rum, which is her trying to keep So-yeon from jumping off the balcony and is instead thrown over herself. Like the focus is on Yo-rum putting everyone before herself and not taking a breather rather than, oh my God, So-yeon needs help. Let's give some attention to the girl who is not getting picked for any dates and design some activities that get her involved in the show. Like this girl never got picked for anything. And then there was a male counterpart, Hoon-hee. And he was the male contestant who really only ever got to be the butt of a joke. That was it. Rather than maybe pair these two up who are treated as outcasts and maybe let them find the happiness that no one else could, they just let them end up alone and still on the fringe while giving happiness to the couple where the one guy cheated and slept with Kang Chae-ri. Like my mind is just like spaghetti thinking about all that. Here's a character that clearly needed some mental health help in So-yeon, and instead she's used as a vehicle for the heroine. And then we've got this poor guy who just keeps saying the wrong word and everybody laughs at him and he's the butt of the joke. None of the women ever pick him, and he loses out on getting picked by one of the female contestants because she chooses the cheating health club owner instead. I see zero redeeming qualities in the people who got to have happily ever afters, except for my favorite couple who I would have watched an entire drama of, and that was Park Ji-won and John Jong.
So we talked about the plot moppet happening at the beginning in terms of the like love interest that wasn't meant to be, who was like there to help kick things off where, the hero all of a sudden is like, okay, I am going to like shoot my shot. Oops, it's too late. But like now I'm going to end up like kind of like in this dating reality show. Cause that was kind of like the premise is he ends up in this reality dating show to help her out. But yeah, my big problem is that a lot of these characters also it was like their traumas were all moppets as well.
Yes.
So the bipolar disorder was a moppet. The eating disorder was a moppet. The sexual assault was a moppet. The being essentially fat in a society that denigrates bigger bodies is trauma. And it was all dealt with is just like little moments to like move the conflict along because there wasn't actual conflict. And that's insulting and gross, honestly. Like, the more I think about it as we're doing this, I'm like, I'm getting mad now.
I know. Cause I mean, honestly, like as far as the contestants are concerned, what I really liked was John Jong, who I didn't think was going to be an important character. And he was the one character who I think had like full growth. Like he had a full arc as far as his romantic story was concerned. Like in the beginning of the show, he has a fling with Guya Rum and makes her think that it was something more and humiliates her. And he seems like this, you know, completely shallow asshole, even when, you know, Kingdom of Love starts and he's one of the contestants. And he seems to take to Tae-mi because he thinks that they look good together. But then there's one day where he just needs to get off the property, and so does Park Ji-won. They both have their reasons, and he's about to drive away, and she's like, can I please just come with you? Like, I just need to get out of here. Can I please just come with you? And he's like, fine. And he's actually going back home to visit his mom, who just got out of the hospital. And he spends like the day with her, and she eats, you know, with his mom, and like they have this lovely time, and he admits that like he's been pretending to be someone that he's not. And I don't know, like, I felt the chemistry between these two, and I bought their romance, and it's the only romance that I bought, like, on the entire show, except for the BFFs in the restaurant.
And I don't mind, like, in some kind of, like, an ugly duckling trope or something if it's handled, like, nicely. And in this case,
Right.
like, there were elements of their relationship that were handled sweetly. But I still am going to say that, like, that pales next to the fact that, like, we're even going to say, well, Ji-won, like, we're going to vilify her for having a bigger body.
Yes.
And yet we're going to celebrate the fact that she's going to clear her plate with him.
Right.
Unlike the other girl who has a body that we're all valuing in the show and, like, holding up as, like, you know, an ideal, and yet, you know, acting like it's ridiculous that she has an eating disorder to maintain these unrealistic body standards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's 100% like the thing that I did not love about it is the fact that every time we see her and John together, she's gobbling up food. It's like they have this like binary of you are either the frumpy chubby girl or the, you know, deprive yourself of any sort of, you know, real sustenance model type figure.
Yes.
Like you can only be one or the other.
And they made this character because, like, I've seen photos, because I was also like, I gotta see some pictures of what she looks like in real life.
She's adorable.
She's adorable, and they couldn't have dressed her worse and styled her worse. Like, they really were trying, like, I mean, to the point where I was like, I'm having a hard time believing that anyone is going to be attracted, not because of, like, their body shape or type, but because they are kind of dressed like a person found under a bridge. Like there's just, you're like, what's going, like, why
very
is this
matronly,
person,
like very matronly.
It was like bizarre, almost like, and I was like, is it because she's meant to be like, because she's also like had a very cool job. She was like a webtoon author.
Yes.
So I'm like, is it meant to be that she's in like quirky outfits? But these aren't like cute, quirky outfits. These are like, just like she was dressing in clothes like my grandma would have worn in 1980.
It was very 80s. You're right.
It was like just this really, I mean, it was just very much a focus on like how frumpy could we make someone look. And
yes,
look, people make frumpy choices, and it was trying to go with like that ugly duckling personality of like he was going to learn to like somebody beyond
from the inside out. Yeah.
Yes. But like I was like, I don't know if that lesson had to come through by making her look like she purposely was trying to dress as horrifically as possible.
I know.
So I was like, so you're not allowed to like, it wasn't like she could just like have a bigger body by social norms in South Korea and be wearing like some baggier clothing because maybe she was feeling insecure about it. It was like, no. We need to put her in basically like a muumuu full of bows. Like how many bows can we give this person?
There are many bows. Yes. And I mean, they had her talk about being insecure about her weight, and then they always had her eating too. So I can't get past the like, and I'm not saying this is what it is, but this is how the drama comes off to me, that like you're either Tae-mi or you're Ji-won, that there is no like happy medium.
Yes. And it was interesting that they gave Ji-won a happy ending, because at one point I was like, I'm pretty sure that's where they're going with this, but like they seem like they kind of hate her so much. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
You know, because at the beginning we were talking about that, like in the first half, or like, is, you know, like she is going to get a happy ending, right? Like this isn't just going to be like horrible for her. But even when she got there, I was still like, fuck, like your character just got mishandled. I mean, I'm still never going to be over the fact of how they handled the disclosure of sexual abuse. And then like there was no real, I mean, and honestly, that was too much of a line for me to ever really root for any of the folks on the production team again.
Right.
And I was like, really, truly, that's like moral garbage.
Yep.
Like come up with something else that's like a little bit less. Like maybe she ran over a puppy once. I don't know. Like, it just didn't have, I was just like, whoa, that's real heavy. And we're not going to like really address it again, except to be like, oh, we're going to like leak it for ratings. And I was like, ugh, like,
right. That's like having to say that So-yeon was bipolar.
Yes. And the moment that Jiwon shared and disclosed her abuse was like a very impactful moment. Like she had a lot of agency in that moment of sharing it. And she went away and was like, you know what? Like I was really having like a human connection and decided to disclose that. And I decided that this really wasn't the right time to do it. Like I shouldn't have done it with cameras rolling. And this is going to cause a lot of really negative impact to my family. And I believe her abuser was like a family member too, like an uncle.
Yes, it was.
And so she's like, this is just going to be a lot for like my family to take in. And this isn't the way that this news should be shared. And like, oh, well, was how the show handled it. And like, okay, like I get that, except for the fact that later we're meant to like root for people who like made those choices to be like, well, they've had growth. And I'm like, well, fuck, man. I don't know. Like this is this is a rom-com.
Right. I know. There's just too much problematic. So let's close this out because we haven't even talked about the actual like leads. Okay.
Because they're not even leads, barely like that's
and what they do for the last 12 episodes, which is not spend the last 12 episodes together. Yet we're supposed to
the first 4, they're like mostly in flashback mode.
Yes. That's really the only place we get to see their connection is in flashback mode. Like I didn't even realize they'd been friends for 20 years until they went to flashbacks. Like I thought that they were just like neighbors. And then all of a sudden, like, no, they've known each other for 20 years. Yeah. So here's the thing. So when Jaehoon does a favor for Yoram to be on the show, he ends up crossing paths with and getting paired up with Han Ji-yeon, who is a woman he was set up with on a blind date before the show. And he was a jerk on the blind date, but then he did apologize. And he basically told her, look, I've got mad feels for someone else. I'm not the guy for you. But then they cross paths again on the show. And she basically, talk about like treatment of women. And this drama was written by a woman. So let's put that out there. But talk about treatment of women. So Ji-yeon's character basically, cause she likes Jaehoon so much. She's crushing so hard for him that she's like, you can just use me. Mm-hmm. Like you can just use me on the show and, we can pair up and nothing has to happen. But like, we can date each other for the show. And you can have your feels and, pine for your other woman.
Just fucking use me. Use me up like an old tissue.
Yep. But of course, she falls deeper and deeper in love with him throughout the show. Mm-hmm. People are commenting, on, posts about the show and stuff like that about basically what a doormat she is. Because she is. Mm-hmm. And I just, and the HEA that they give her at the end is that a fan of the show approaches her in an art gallery because she's an art teacher and basically like that's going to be her potential happily ever after.
Okay.
So I don't know. But that's the thing. Like, so Jaehoon spends the entirety of the 12 episodes pretending to like Han Ji-yeon for the show while Yoram watches from the sidelines. And then she falls off the building and they love each other happily ever after. Bye-bye.
No thanks to the bipolar person who gets no love.
I still like, does that happen on dating shows where a person gets picked for nothing? So they just hole up in their room and like.
Possibly, but this is like treating it like.
Lose their grip. Like, they kept showing her going for her pills. And I'm like, at first in the beginning, I'm like, so does she have a drug problem? Like, at first they weren't like saying what it was. And I'm like, oh, so we're showing her taking antidepressants, which should be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like I said, just a complete disregard and disrespect for, mental health and, people who are in any way neurodivergent. The whole thing, a hot mess. The relationship, halfway through the drama, I was like, I don't give a shit if the main character gets, like, I don't care if they get together. No. Like, I was like, everyone needs therapy. Like, the two leads both need therapy.
Yes.
And kind of everyone needs therapy. Like, the end of this drama, I was like, this drama just put everyone in therapy. The leads should not be in a relationship with anyone, including each other. And that's not like the vibe I wanted to get, like my lighthearted rom-com.
No, like
I was
midway through, I remember messaging you saying, so there's the first, female lead, and there's a second female lead, and there's a male lead, and I'm rooting for none of them. Like, none of them. Like, I felt bad for Han Ji-yeon, but like, also, I hated, and it's the writing that made her do it, but I hated that she let herself be treated like that because she loved him so much.
Which, I mean, that's not what love is either.
No.
So like, she had a lot of self-worth problems and had somehow projected that the answers to everything lied in this fucking broken man who had never been able to self-actualize his feelings for this other person, who was unable to ever self-actualize herself. And so I was like, this is actually like kind of a tragedy, and it's depressing. Unintentionally.
I seriously have gotten more upset in talking about it for the past hour.
Because I also took big gaps in watching it too. Like, I was doing other things, and so I didn't sit down and just binge this through. I started it being like, I kind of like it, and then after the first 4 episodes, I was like, ugh, like I'm not feeling it so much. And then I kind of started to like watch it in chunks. And so I never sat down and did like the heavy binge and came out of it. So
no,
now
I don't either. Because I watched it live. I watched it 100%
so yeah,
live.
now talking it to me.
So I was watching 2 a week. And again, I feel like this is the same thing that happened with like Cafe Minimdong, is that I'm like, do I hate it? Like, do I like it? Like, I can't, like you get 2 a week and I'm like, all right, so I guess I'm still kind of interested. And then I would, go away for a week. And then I would be like, well, I guess I should just keep watching because now I'm like 10 episodes in, you know what I mean? Like, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, and look, I also feel like a bummer because I feel like lately I've been like, to like a couple of dramas, and I can't help it. It hasn't made me think like, oh, dramas aren't for me. And I've actually been watching some things I really like that we haven't talked about in the show. Like, I'm watching Curtain Call right now, and I quite like it. So it's not like I'm just like this hater for no reason. It's just that there have been a couple of dramas that haven't done it for me lately. But like, honestly, like when I was like Cafe Minimdog, like my least favorite drama, I just didn't enjoy the slapstick and stuff.
And I did.
But I wasn't sitting there being like, I feel morally
right.
bad.
It wasn't like hugely problematic in like every area of life.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. Yeah, look, I just didn't enjoy it, but that was fine. But this, I'm like, and you did. And that's, I think, again, fine. But in this, I'm walking away. And this is where I feel a little bad, because if somebody is watching or watched this and was like, I really liked it. Like, am I a garbage person? No. But like, I still think that there were I would like to hear maybe.
Give us a rebuttal. Like,
yeah, I'd like to hear a nuanced rebuttal as to how you felt the treatment of a lot of these things were, like why they didn't put you off. And I don't mean that, I mean, like, that's even that sounds judgy, and I'm not trying to, like, I will approach it from actual curiosity.
Look, you're listening to 2 people who loved Boys Over Flowers. So,
right. I mean, I'm okay with problematic stuff. I mean, when he told her to lick his boot in Boys Over Flowers, I was like, I mean, look, it's kind of hot. I mean, like, not in real life, in fantasy life, but like in fantasy life, it's not hot for me to be like, ew, you have an eating disorder. You're not worthy of like love, but like you're also fat and like you're kind of gross too. Like, I was just like, what is happening? Why is everyone? Ugh, I hate it.
I know.
I do. It's a hate for me, actually.
I've
decided that.
I mean, I honestly, because you've heard me talk about my huge disappointment in personal taste, which I really wanted to love so much because, Lee Min-ho and Sun Yi-jin. And I just
unseated it.
This has unseated it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at, here's
Yep. This is, I mean, like, there's definitely some problematic stuff in that because he's impersonating a gay man, but
yeah. So we're like, who wins the problem?
Right. Who wins? This ticks off too much. I mean, because it is, I really think what it comes down to is that this drama is a horrible treatment of women. For me.
No, I think it really just, I mean, this is where I'm having a hard time of being like, I'm interested in a rebuttal, but like, to me, truly, I don't see, like, I'm not going to be, I guess it's just if somebody feels compelled to share it, but I'm not looking to be convinced because I feel pretty settled and okay with how I'm feeling about this.
Yeah, agree.
Like there really is. It's just, it didn't. And I think what I'm struggling with too is that I believe that the drama was well-intentioned. I do think that.
Yes.
I do think that there was an element of well-intentionality, and I don't think that they were like, oh, I'm going to write something to just like blame and shame everyone. I feel as if it just was, actually, I don't know if I want to say well-intentioned. I think it was not intentioned. Because it was just a willful using of like big issues people grapple with.
Yes.
Just to further plot along because there was no story. And I like really am offended by that.
Yeah, every person who was not a lead was a plot moped for the leads, and the leads had nothing else basically without that.
Yes. So
I mean, there you have
it. I feel sucked. My joy was sucked out in this drama, and I feel
I need
mad.
a palate cleanser.
I do too.
I think we need to watch something that we know we love.
I think it is time that are we going to disclose what we're going to be doing?
I mean, if we say it, we have to do it, right? Like,
well, we are doing it,
yeah,
but let's disclose it because I think it could be fun for folks too. We have decided that something we've talked about doing, we talked about doing it last year and we didn't.
We did like a speed, like we watched our favorite parts, but we didn't watch I don't think anybody made it the whole way. Cause we did do a pod about the drama.
We did?
We did. Yeah, we did. So we might be unveiling a lie because we might have said that we watched it, but we didn't. We didn't watch it all the way through. And that is Crash Landing on You.
Okay,
yeah.
Well,
Crash Landing on You.
Yeah. Crash Landing on You. We are going to rewatch Crash Landing on You. This will be the first time I watched Crash Landing on You in 2 years. And I have a lot of dramas under my belt now, and I'm really curious to see where it hits me. And so, yeah, over the holiday season, I'm going to be rewatching it and seeing
I'm confident.
How it vibes.
I'm confident that it's going to. I mean, like, so this was our first drama, and I watched Crash Landing on You, and then went right back to episode 1. I mean, so I watched Crash Landing on You twice, back to back, when I first started watching dramas.
Same, except I didn't watch the last episode. The second time, it was too much.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And
when I rewatched Goblin, I've only watched Goblin once.
And I'm still slowly going. I finished 10 of Goblin. Like, I feel like I'm going much slower because it's going to break me but I'm going to watch it all the way through. But it is, like, speaking of holding up, like, that's holding up too. So, yeah. So, you know what? There's going to be dramas out there that we love. There's going to be dramas that we don't love. And same for all of you. There's going to be dramas that you love and dramas that you don't love. We have created a platform to talk about it, but we want you to talk about it with us. And we never want any of you to feel like you should feel bad for liking what you like. Because, like we said, we love a problematic drama too. We just don't love this one.
Truth.
All right. Well.
All right.
Thanks for listening if you made it all the way to this 90-plus minute end. And
I don't want to say I'm jealous of Megan for having COVID and missing out on watching this, but on that note.
I know.
Annyeong!
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!